have a lot of frequency fences. I think they're more advanced in their technology, and they're also working a lot more in the silicon base. They're working off of the Fallen Dragon holographic radial matrix, basically. And so it ties into a lot of AI and the singularity vortexes. And I think that it's just, they're more advanced in being able to build frequency fences to tune into the energy there. Also, a lot of the things that are going down in terms of alien implants, like the big Alien 5.
Cryptos are hot again. Ladies and gentlemen, have you checked out Trade Genius Academy yet? If not, what the heck are you waiting for? Use the promo code Patrick for a 40% off non-bundled opportunity. The bundled options are 65% off. I have personally seen gains in hours. It'll take some people months, even longer to experience otherwise. Trade Genius Academy is the ultimate in proprietary trading algorithm calls sent to you via email and text message when the best time to buy and sell based on these trading calls. Whether you're into cryptos or stocks, it's all about options. Check them out, Trade Genius Academy. And look at some of these attaboys. People love Bob, rightfully so. Bob, the founder of Trade Genius Academy, he was an executive for 2 Fortune 500 companies in the financial services industry for 25 years. He's the man. Trade Genius Academy is awesome. Check him out, TradeGeniusAcademy.com. Get off the sidelines. You'll be glad you did. IndigoAngel. That's a really cool name. I appreciate you being a guest this year at Leak Project. And I was just looking at some of the photos that you sent by email. Fascinating to look at the, I think it's called the Rock Eagle. Is that what it's called?
Yes.
It looks like a turtle.
It does kind of look like a turtle.
A lot. Yeah, I thought we were looking at like the turtle that's talked about in native traditions, where isn't America supposed to be the turtle? Something like that?
Something like that. It's definitely very Aquilan based from the celestial system of Aquila, the actual Eagle star system. And so it really ties into the control matrices that are running a lot of these Stargate sites and vortex sites. And it also represents America, because America's national animal is the eagle, and it's also a part of our militarization as well, which is a huge part of the Aquilan control matrix that ties into the Georgia Guidestones. So there's so much that goes into this.
Yeah. Fascinating. Mm-hmm. I know that there's a lot of symbology of the serpent and the eagle, and some people think that that's the 2 brothers, Enki and Enlil, and there's a lot of other connections to put those 2 together. But I would love to hear the information that you're going to share with us about the eagle. And what system did you call it?
I called it the Aquilan control system, or the Aquilan matrix. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So before you tell us about that, tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, awesome. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for having me on the show. And so a little bit about myself. I consider myself to be a global planetary grid reader, an intuitive, a psychic. And basically what I do is I will remote into a lot of these locations. I tune into the Earth's celestial radio holographic divine blueprint. And I just intuit and channel information. And I do a lot of private group grid sessions. So I teach others how to do this work as well, and host a lot of these group sessions. And we go in and we remote in energetically. We clear the grids. We clear blockages, earth chakras, ley lines, crystal caverns, Stargate sites, vortexes, anything, you name it. Sometimes we go after some of the more intense locations like the Vatican, or even, try to remote into China, which is very difficult. They seem to have a lot of force fields around them that's kind of harder to tune in. But basically, yeah, that's what I do. Really dedicated to my mission with planetary work and healing the Earth's grids and the Earth's fields. But I'm also a Starseed astrologist, and I teach advanced ascension mechanics. I wrote a book called How to Read Celestial Starseed Akashic Records. And I also do a lot of implant removal. So I do J seal removals, Draco seal removals, removing all kinds of inorganic alien implants and hybridization traumas, type things that are related to that and help people with healing their chakras and things like this. So you can find all of my work at IndigoAngel222.com. And if you're interested in any of the group grid sessions and planetary work that I do all of that at my Patreon, patreon.com/IndigoAngel. Yeah.
I was taking notes as you were saying that. But I want to ask you a question. You brought up China and remote viewing the Vatican, and you said it was is it tougher to remote view China than the Vatican?
I would say it is. They energetically, they have a lot of frequency fences. I think they're more advanced in their technology, and they're also working a lot more in the silicon based. They're working off of the fallen dragon holographic radial matrix, basically. And so it ties into a lot of AI and the singularity vortexes. And I think that it's just they're more advanced in being able to build frequency fences to tune into the energy there. Also, a lot of the things that are going down in terms of alien implants, like the big Alien 5. More tumultuous type energy, and it's really happening in the first dimensional fields, second dimensional fields. And so it's hard to tune in, especially when you're doing group grid work, because you get more interference, and it can come in the forms of personal attacks. It can come in a lot of distortions and delusions that will kind of play out. And so it can really throw you off when you're trying to just go in and work with the organic matrix, or you're trying to actually just, heal and clear and bring in that God sovereign free energy. And so, yeah, it gets a little distorted because it's harder to tune in. Also, because we're so far away. I'm trying to do that from the United States is definitely very difficult. I'd say it's easier to tune in, even in Middle Eastern areas like Giza, just because there's more. I'm more used to working with those Stargate sites there, and they're a little bit more open. So yeah, I'd say overall.
Did you remote view anything like what else did you remote view in China?
I had tuned into a lot of the fallen dragon grids. So what I've seen is it's working off of the Great Wall of China, because the Great Wall of China is the dragon head, like the actual head. And the Great Wall of China, I think that has a lot to do with tying into the frequencies of the dragon grid, but also there are 5 major cities that run the AI, like technocracy controlled type systems. I can't remember all the cities. I did an update on it. It's basically not fresh on my mind right now, but basically tuning into how that's interlooping into Silicon Valley in California. And that's what's keeping the AI blood running, or the artificial intelligence systems running, is through those two. They're using the silicon-based energy in the Earth's field. So they're tuning into that spiritually to keep the fallen dragon systems locked in place from California all the way to China. So that's basically what I focused on the last time I tried to remote into it. But yeah.
Now, what is the fallen dragon exactly?
So that has a lot to do with, so all of these control matrices that I'm talking about, right? I'm talking about the Aquilin system, or the dragon system, or the 4-quadrant hybridization system. Basically, these are control networks based off of galactic radial identities that exist through humankind, that exists through the way in which humans behave, through government, through militarization, through how we enforce our control systems here. And so each one of these is basically identified by a system. The fallen dragon runs off of the draconic systems. It runs off of the Omicrons, the Necromatons. It runs off of its hybridizations with the Anunnaki, the Aquilin systems, the Draco Nephilim. There's basically a lot of hybridizations within that, but it runs off of the facets of those radial genetic identities and how they implement their control systems here, basically within the Earth's holographic matrix. It's a very atomic level of control, and it's very unseen, it's very unconscious, and it's basically playing out amongst humanity without humanity really understanding or knowing that this is going on, but it's just different levels in which these control systems are able to corral humanity under their systems and implement those control systems. So does that kind of make sense?
Kind of. What do you mean by
Okay.
omnicrons?
What I mean by omicrons, the omicrons are, they're a moth, they're a fallen moth dragon lineage from the Draco system, basically. And so it's just another faction within the dragon systems that is a part of the control templates through their genetic design, basically.
Okay, so do you believe then that there are beings that came to Earth from the Draco constellation and set up grids to control Earth and humanity?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, I want to hear more about this. Now we're getting into like sci-fi, but I've heard a lot of this before. So, I mean, I just, it's fascinating. Why?
Why are they doing it?
Yeah, like why has your data pointed you to that? Like, what makes you say that there's draconian beings that are controlling us that came here from another constellation? And I genuinely want to know, like, because I've interviewed so many people that have talked about this assimilation of humanity from different species of other star constellations, and I've questioned that also. But like, I just want to know what makes you say these things are draconian and they come from the draconian star system. Fascinating.
Right. I think it has come through my embodiment of the planetary Akashic history, and coming to see what has played out on the earth for over 500,000 years. I've intuited a lot of this, I've channeled a lot of it, and I've also researched a lot of it as well. And it's kind of a collaborative understanding to come to see all of this. But essentially, I do feel that the Draco system was one of the first races to have seeded the earth over 500,000 years ago. And there's other systems that have come to seed. Several systems. I mean, there's so many, really. There's the universal systems that we mostly hear about in the fluffy Starseed community, right? Like, we hear about the Arcturians, we hear about the Pleiadians, we hear about the Sirians, the Andromedans, the Orions, which, the Orions, to me personally, I feel they're definitely a fallen system at this point. They are completely hybridized, completely hijacked, and they're operating in a lot of the more tumultuous and militarized Stargate systems on the earth that have a lot of negative agendas going on the planetary field at this time. So I don't think they're to be trusted either way, but essentially it goes back to the beginning of creation here. I think it goes back to the dinosaurs as well, with the Draco system as well, that a lot of this genetic hybridization comes down from that as well. And that it has to do with, primal survival, and it has to do with who's been here the longest and who's figured out the technologies. It's really an intelligence field. It's not like who or what or any specific, it's an intelligence that exists within the Earth's field. And it's also, I think it's a percentage of everybody's DNA on the Earth. It's, 2 to 10%, mostly everybody on the Earth's field, I think, would be hybridized within this to some degree of their radial identity cosmically within themselves. There's a lot of denial within the spiritual community, also with the Anunnaki collective as well. But I think we're a great collaboration of all of these identities. And I think that's what happens when you wake up to this consciousness within yourself, is you're waking up to this diverse genetic identity within yourself, right? And it's a celestial template that comes online, and you are becoming each identity or genetic or protein or race that's ever existed here to embody that and to overcome and rehabilitate those DNAs. It's a part of our evolution that we are becoming into the new root race. So that's what I tell people a lot too when they come into their starseed origins, is that it's not just, you're not just one thing or this thing. Like you get your starseed origin, or you get your blueprint, or you get these downloads that yes, I'm this or I'm that, or I come from this system. But essentially you are waking up to remember all of it. And that's just kind of a gateway into seeing your entire cosmic identity. But yeah, these systems have been here since the beginning of time. And it's really just it's about control, and it's about domination, and it's about survival of the fittest. And it's about wanting to become, you know, the race lineage that has the most here. And that's what the Draco system ultimately has done, is they have, you know, created the draconic law, they've created the medical system, they've created a lot here. And so that's why they're basically at the top of the game.
And and I've heard of the draconian system as well as the constellation and the draconian measures. Was it like the downloads that you were doing, the connecting to the cosmic Akashic records possibly, or something else? Or was it like a document or an ancient scripture or an ancient cuneiform tablet or something that connected the mindset to the 500,000 years and the constellation Draco?
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Like, where am I coming to these conclusions? Well, it's collaborative. I've studied a lot of works. I've studied a lot of Asha and Nadine's. I've studied Voyagers 1 and 2. I've studied a lot of Lisa Renee's work. I've studied a lot of the Mayan factors. I've studied cosmology. I've studied astrology. I've really have dived into, you know, Madame Blavatsky's work. Just it's such a collaborative understanding of everything that I've gone into, but also have channeled a lot of this myself as well. I consider myself to be a Hydra ambassador. So I am from the Hydra system. And so I do feel that this was one of the first primordial progenitor races that ever seeded. I feel that the Hydra system ultimately was the mother race to the Pleiadians and ultimately to the Anunnaki. It's a primordial serpent lineage that has been here since the time of the Dracos, and ultimately the Hydra system has been at war with the Draco system since the beginning of time. The Draco system has come through an immense amount of facets, such as the Dagons and the Cthulhus and the Squid Nations. It's almost like Squid Nations versus Squid Nations, because the Dracos are also part squid as well. And some of their hybridized forms and some of their original forms that they have come through the deep Pacific. So it's really extensive, honestly, but it goes back to the motherlands of Mu. And I have a lot of memory to the first genocidal memories in the motherlands of Mu, which have also brought forth a lot of this information for me, is remembering being a part of this time and seeing how that descendancy happened from Mu to Lemuria to Australia to India through Kudnam Kumari, and the great descendancy of the creation tablets of the great seven-headed serpent from the Nakal people. So it's extensive.
No, see, that's why I asked you this, because you're giving information that I find is fascinating. You're telling us where you have put together your theory, your hypothesis on life. And I find that fantastic, because, you know, when you make these very powerful claims, right? Like we've been seeded by beings from the constellation Draco, 500,000 years ago, or even further. But then when you start to talk about the scriptures that you've researched and the different mythologies, because ancient mythology is ancient science to many cultures. And if you just change the verbiage, mythology can be quite accurate. It's fascinating. You know, if you look at the gods talked about in the battles in the heavens, if you were to change some of these gods to planetary bodies, then you could say, oh, I get it. The thunderbolt of the gods. They were talking about a giant plasma bolt, the arcing of planets when they got too close to each other. That makes sense. So, I mean, this is great. And I appreciate that. So yeah, that gives me a better understanding of where you've put this information together. And wow. Tell us more. This is great.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's so nice of you to say. Um, yeah, so what I've recently been working on is the Georgia Guidestones. I got over to the sacred site because I wanted to feel what was going on there. I can definitely interpret a lot more if I can get on location versus remote in. Like I can see a lot remoting in, but if I can get there, I can really decode the intelligence fields that are running there. And so that's basically what I tuned into when I went to the Georgia Guidestones, was how much was really playing out there. I seen that the Georgia Guidestones was a very extensive open portal that was functioning off of a lot of atomic nuclear energy, and that it was actually creating a nuclear pool that was down at the bottom of the Georgia Guidestones, because I intuitively had seen that there was like a lunar tunneler that was operating underneath of it. And so I seen open portals that were extending to all kinds of locations all over the globe, China, the Vatican, the Phoenix projects, the Montauk projects, funneling from Washington, D.C., funneling from Trinity Gate sites, which are harvesting stations coming from New York, Manhattan, California. Also the World War II grids, energies were coming in through fallen systems through Poland and Germany, also operating off current events as well. So the World War Z grids, Russia and Ukraine. And it's because it's running eugenics and depopulation codes basically. And so it's really opening up to the lower dimensional fields, 1 and 2 dimensional fields. There's a lot of rips in the astral field and time space continuums, because it's opening up to nuclear sites as well, such as Fukushima and Chernobyl. And I was seeing that this was allowing in a lot of trauma energy. So souls in the Bardo planes. It was opening up to death screens and filters in the astral as well. And this is polluting the collective astral field. So why we're having such a tumultuous collective experience, especially through the month of March, is because these portals are open and it's funneling all this energy. And the Georgia Guidestones is kind of like a central station that's basically running all of these intelligence fields. And it's also running intelligent plasma that seems to actually be accumulating around the Georgia Guidestones and going in through a slit that actually goes down the tunneler and actually goes down and seems to be accessing these nuclear pools. And the more extensively I dived into it, I realized that it's running an Aquilin gate system close to the Georgia Guidestones, that rock eagle effigy mound that's right next to, it's about an hour and 40 minutes southwest of the Georgia Guidestones in the direction of the southwest stone that's going interdirectionally, that's running the Hebrew language on the stone inscription. So Hebrew bringing through Elohim energy. This is directly parallel to this location here. And I do feel that this is an Aquilin Stargate site.
Watch the podcast uncensored, unedited, in full at leakproject.com. Over 4,000 podcasts available for your viewing pleasure.